And now for something completely different.
Forget everything you've been told by others before. Get ready for the real deal. The full story. Real talk about money, markets, life. Now, it's The Real Investment Show, presented by RIA Advisors.
And welcome to Financial Fitness, the holiday edition. And I'm here. We're here in Santa's Wonderland. We're in the North Pole. All the elves are working. We have Sarah Elf with us today.
Howdy.
The most credentialized elf in the North Pole.
You know, the biggest thing about elves is they have a lot of fun.
They do have fun, which means I could never be an elf.
I'll be an elf anytime.
I didn't know there were big things about elves.
There was that one elf
I see what you did there.
that wanted to be a dentist, and I could never get that. I had a friend in school that looked like Hermie or whatever. I think that was the elf's name in the Rankin Rass program. I think that's the Bass. But Rankin Bass did all the Claytronic stuff that you as a kid used to watch, like Rudolph and all that. Mm-hmm. And I had a friend of mine looked just like the dentist elf.
Oh, I see.
Yeah. Same wispy blonde hair and stuff. But we would, every Christmas, this poor kid, what he went through. I mean, he was totally harassed. Hey, Hermie, when are you going to be a dentist? All right. So this holiday time thing, it gets people thinking about, well, the end of their lives. Some people are happy to see things. Some people thinking about death during the holidays. That's fine. You know why? Because you unpack all these ornaments and you've got them for 25, 30, maybe they're around 50 years, your grandparents. You get a little melancholy. People are a little more vulnerable during the holidays. So there was a study that was done, it was a fidelity survey, that found 68% of parents hadn't told their children what they would inherit, or if they would inherit anything at all. Now, based on past experience, and now I work with a lot of these children who are now adults, the most financially savvy young adults or children of clients that I have come from families where money was transparent and discussed. It wasn't hidden away. And I'm talking about salaries, I'm talking about incomes, I'm talking about 401ks. In other words, the children understood money early on and understood that talking about money wasn't some sort of curse or something you never discussed. When I was growing up in an Italian family, you never talked about money, right? And this seems to be, based on this fidelity survey, an issue. So, but I feel like, and this is by the way, this is a guide. We have our financial ebooks and guides available, but this is a special holiday legacy conversation guide that's available at realinvestmentadvice.com for you to download for free. Because you should be having these kinds of conversations with your kids. And it seems like holiday or any loved one that you are going to bequeath, whether it's money, property, whatever it is. And having conversations sometimes around holiday time, people are more open to do it. So this is a 7-page guide. I think it might help you guide your direction for conversation during this time of year. So, and it'll be available to around the middle of January. Then we're going to be taking it down. So one thing we have to keep in mind is thoughtful communication is the key to conversations about money as the greatest gift. So when you get this time of year, families are more open to conversations about their legacy and their risk intentions. So the topics of passing wealth or protecting it are on the table, along with the Christmas ham, although I'm not a big fan of the ham thing. So pass the ham. Send me the turkey. But these conversations have to be handled properly. They're either going to make the holiday or they're going to ruin the holiday. So if you look at, and again, I've talked about this, conversations about money could be incredible gifts to your kids, especially if you've kept them in the dark about what they're going to get, right? People who communicate openly their thoughtful in their estate or risk mitigation processes. They allay the family financial friction and animosity. So, the holidays, they take our guard down a little bit. Not me. I'm really grinchy. Me and Lance, forget it. But you have to delicately handle the process. But what is delicate? So what I always say with these conversations, Sarah, is start with empathy. Because it allows you the ability to understand others. What am I going to say that's going to wreak havoc or make you have another glass of eggnog with me? How I say it probably means everything. Right? What do you think?
Yeah, I think approaching anything at the holidays needs to be on tiptoes, just depending on the family dynamics there. But, if you, of course, try to put yourself in the other person's shoes and consider how they'll receive the news, then you can already prompt your message and how you're going to deliver that.
Absolutely. I think money, like you said, it's a delicate subject to begin with, right? So in empathy, I think, I put this in the guide, it throws a warm blanket. It throws a warm blanket over this kind of conversation. It makes things a little less rough around the edges. And it allows you to be kinder in your delivery, right? It's exploratory. It's about a conversation, especially if you're trying to get information out of a parent or grandparent, right? In my family, no amount of empathy was going to work without 2 gallons of Chianti. And then it got angry, so it doesn't work. So you want to understand as I say in the second point, the backstory to come from this place of empathy. Because everybody has a backstory. You sort of know who your kids are growing up. How sensitive they are. You can before asking these financial questions or thoughts, you got to know your audience. And I find a lot of times that when parents pass away and I work with the kids, that a lot of times these parents really didn't know the audience. Like, I'm talking about silly stuff. Riffs over toy collections, dishes, breakfast mugs. I'm not kidding, okay? I'm talking about old photographs, furniture, jewelry. You leave it to them or not leave it to them through wills or other estate documents without the conversation. You don't know what you're going to create. Because you don't know that what this particular item meant to one of your kids versus the other. Or someone else in the family. Unless you explore it. I have had families that are still not talking to each other about a McDonald's breakfast mug that Grandpa used to use every time he went to McDonald's. McDonald's used to serve coffee in mugs. Like actual mugs. And he was able to get one. It was a whole story. Like, I listened to this story over and over again. And one son didn't want the mug. He got the mug. But then he had a fight with his sister and wouldn't give the sister the mug. And she wanted the mug. And those two are still not talking. This is the kind of silly stuff that you go through if you pass away and you don't have open conversations about these kinds of items.
What's equally as important is if they want the things to begin with. So now think about all the things that you've accumulated during your lifetime.
Yep.
And all that stuff. Do the kids actually want it?
If they want it at all, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's where, this empathy thing might bite you in the butt a little bit, only because you're thinking that one of your kids wants this mug and none of them want it. Like, I always think that when I go to an antique store, when I go, this is where my stuff's going to be. This is where my kid's going to have my G.I. Joe collection and, my Starsky and Hutch dolls and all this stuff. I know where they're going. The antique store is where they're going. She doesn't want any of that stuff. You got to understand that and be realistic enough to maybe understand that if she tells me she doesn't want it, I'm not going to not talk to her again. I'm going to know that maybe I should look to sell these on eBay before she does. Mm-hmm. Right? But conversation starters are as easy as swallowing fruitcake from 1993, right? Because you could have all the empathy in the world, but you can't get the words out, right? Conversation starters are tough. So sometimes it doesn't hurt to ask an independent third party to be involved or facilitate. And I don't use like this objective or independent third party lightly. Any financial advisor worth their value can do it with you. Friends, clergy. I mean, we get thrown in the line of fire all the time as advisors, and I'm happy to get thrown in the line of fire. If I am the one that has to do it, then I am happy to do it. So the conversation starter, sometimes it's lubricated with a little spiked eggnog, a little rum. Sometimes it's not. So if you need someone else to help you along, that's okay, as long as it gets done. And then you have to frame these questions properly to make sure the conversations about money are the greatest gifts. Closed-end questions don't work, right? Or those that begin with why sometimes won't get you where you need to go. You want these free flow of responses, right? You don't want dead-end questions. Questions that can begin with why can sometimes sound defensive. It reminds me like when you were a kid and your mother would say, not now, why? You can't have this toy, why? Right? So you don't want to be combative. When your kids ask you why to everything, it was sort of cute, maybe, for a point. But as adults, we got to learn to ask questions more delicately to gather important information. What would be one of your conversation starters about money? Sarah, do you have one?
For me, like you said, asking open-ended questions and just generally trying to find out perhaps, I mean, as a parent, you probably already know this, but we have to ask, what is the tax situation of your different children, and does that impact how they're going to receive assets from you? And if it does, that might be the reason why there's some inequity in the conversation.
And you can possibly equalize that, right? If you have, there are strategies that you can do.
Yep.
If say, for example, you've been helping one child who is not financially as adept as, say, your other child, and you don't even know how that other child feels about it. There's a lot of animosity sometimes that gets created. Oh, you keep bailing Sally out, right? Where's my money? Where's my inheritance? Well, you are responsible. Oh, so I'm being penalized. This is an actual conversation I had in my office. So, but there's ways to look at it and try to equalize it, even if it's, say, well, down the road, I'm going to change the gifting strategy, right? Or I'm going to leave one party a Roth non-spousal IRA versus traditional, right? Based on the tax situation. So you have to get your kids sometimes. Parents don't want to open up about where they are financially, and kids don't want to open up about where they are financially. So you've got to have an ability to ask these questions respectfully and get the conversations flowing. And sometimes, yes, it's not going to be easy to get it done.
And that's kind of where we fall as advisors. We can come in and have that conversation without stirring the emotion part of it.
Right.
Because we can kind of introduce the reasons why we're asking the questions, the thinking behind how to make the family unit as a whole further by the decisions.
And that makes us more fun at holiday parties because we have a lot of great questions. So you really thought that tablecloth was a good idea. Not enough rum in the eggnog. Is there a reason? But those are all combative kind of questions we don't want to ask. So some creative conversation starters that can lead to questions about money is the greatest gifts. Let me give you some. Naturally, these ideas are not going to be for everybody. And you got to sort of tug on the heartstrings just a little. It's going to sound corny, so maybe you got to rehearse this stuff. But one question is, what do you wish you would have said or asked granddad or grandma before he or she died? I wish I knew where Pops stored his essential documents so I didn't need to ransack his house at the worst time emotionally. Right? I mean, I have partnered with clients who lost parents over a decade ago and abandoned investment accounts. They're still popping up. So what do you wish you would have said or asked your parents, your mom or dad, before he or she died? Is there any regrets that you've had about this? Or tell me a little bit about that kind of stuff. Sometimes the lack of paperwork or the rummaging around trying to find things is one of the worst things you can do for your kids. And that happens a lot. And it still happens a lot. And now some of it, in some ways, I think it's worse because you could have all this stuff behind electronic walls and other things with passwords, and people have no idea where all that stuff is. At least when my grandfather would buy 8 CDs, he'd had paper statements.
Papers, yep.
And even though you had to be Columbo to go through it, eventually you did find it. Although I did find an account about 2 weeks ago for my grandfather, and I went to my uncle. I said, do you believe I always go to the abandoned property sites for the states I know where my family is because I want to see if I can find anything. And it's amazing how much I find. Like, you may not even know, there might be a Clanton out there that has some dough that they forgot about. And you wouldn't believe it, how much money. No? Mrs. Clanton has uncovered all the money.
Do you know
in the
that
family.
Actually happened to me? Well,
No. What?
You hear the stories all the time that there's a long lost relative that left so and so some money. That happened to me.
Really?
It was not an earth shattering amount of money, but
they thought of you.
It was $2,000.
What?
And if I saw that on the ground, I'd pick it up. So yeah, I thought it was a
scam.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I turned
What was
out
like a great uncle or like a
it was
cousin
a
or
long lost aunt, different last name and everything, but she had like a
Holy
list
moly.
of people in the beneficiary. It was like one of those things where if my heirs are no longer, or if this person's no longer living, then my heirs at law. And so they had
Okay.
to go through and find all the heirs at law, and I was in that list. So, yeah,
Did you visit her grave at least?
I did not.
Oh, see.
I did not. But
Good
thank
to
you.
feel- now it's time to feel guilty over the holiday.
Thank you, long lost aunt.
You could have spent all that money to go see it.
I could have.
Yeah.
I could have.
Hopefully it was in Tennessee. You can get out of here and go there. So sometimes this kind of question about, it's a regret. And this question has worked. Only the reason I put the questions in this guide is because they've worked. They haven't backfired. Although I'm sure some of you will absolutely make it backfire. But from my experience and from what others have used, this kind of having your parents reminisce a little about their parents and some of the stuff they went through when they passed can say, gosh, ooh, I did make that. I don't want to make that mistake. Remember how long it took to get and find all this stuff? So that's definitely something that you want to consider. Or pets. Pets are really great to throw into the whole mix. How do you think Snowy would feel if she were whisked off to an animal shelter if something happened to you? Because I'm not taking her. Well, leave that last part out. In other words, sometimes, I don't mean to throw a pet in the line of fire, but it's an effective icebreaker. We love our pets and can't imagine the horror of poor Puffy being carted away to an animal shelter. You know how many times I read or see ads for dogs like, this was my mom's dog for 15 years and nobody wants her and we're going to give her to the shelter if somebody doesn't take her. And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's like the worst thing. So sometimes using the pet, you have some arrangements for your pet there, Mr. Clanton?
Yes.
See?
Yes, we do. They're standing in line.
They all want that, right?
Yeah.
But there are times where that doesn't happen. So sometimes it does open up the conversation if you're using the pet, because everybody loves animals. There's a movie that came out that called Good Dog. It's a horror movie.
It's a great movie.
Okay, but you know what? First of all, I know the producers of the movie.
Mm-hmm, of course.
Right. So I said, this is very creative. I wouldn't even have thought about writing something like this. But I said, I got one question for you, otherwise I'm not watching it. Does a dog die? Because if the dog dies, I'm not watching it.
Yeah.
And they go, no, the dog does not die. And I'm like, good. So sometimes bringing up the pets, because I want them to be taken care of, can open up conversations, at least from what I found, about other things. So that's not a bad icebreaker. Also, when my parents passed, I had to come up with all their arrangements. I had to guess my way through all of that. Right? My dad died at 52. My mom died at 59. And I no idea what they would have wanted. I made an assumption, right? So one of those questions, do you realize if you pass tomorrow, I have no idea. Do you want to be cremated? Do you want to be buried? We're planning and then, your parents will go, oh, don't fret over me. I don't care what you do. I'll be dead. That's a bunch of crap. Because you should know what your parents want. like end of life decisions? Have you communicated those outside of a document? Who actually takes care of those things? And we don't really think about it very often, right? The best clients I have done prearranged burial. They have taken care of all of that so that they don't have to take care of it. But the communication about that, I can see where this can go. Oh, you're waiting for me to die, huh? You want to know whether I want to be cremated or buried. Listen, they care. Don't you care that they should know these details? How would you approach that question?
That's an interesting thing for you to pose to me. I also, like you, had to go through the arrangements for my dad.
You did? Mm-hmm. Never gave you an idea of...
Didn't have a clue. Had to search for his documents, had to sort everything out on my own and figure out his arrangements as well. And I can tell you, as someone who came through that, talk about a gift for Christmas. If you have all that arranged and you communicate that to your children, that is just a weight lifted off of their shoulders in a time where they're grieving at the loss of someone that they really love. So
I'm shopping cemeteries right now. I'm so damn excited. I'm ready to move. I'm ready to go on. Amy goes, I have never seen anybody so excited about burial.
How's the market?
Everybody's dying to get in to the cemetery.
Yeah, I can dig it.
okay.
That was for Sarah. We just made that up along the way. Abbott and Costello.
That was
Here we
amazing.
go. But she goes, I never seen anybody so damn happy. I almost found the perfect grave that overlooks June and Johnny Cash at Hendersonville Cemetery.
Oh, Hendersonville. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. So I'm having a ball. Who's my neighbor?
Mm-hmm.
Do
they make noise?
How do I get my dogs into who's going to stuff the dogs in the casket, the cremains of the dogs in there? Because I got to be buried with the dogs. I've had some crazy conversations with cemeteries. If I have a niche and I'm cremated, can I have my cremated dogs in there? Oh no, that's against code. Well, they're in little boxes. How would you even, they're in nice little box, they go in there with me. We're all together. Oh, I don't think we could do that. But we can do that if you get buried. Okay. What's the difference? If they're shoved into the casket or put into the niche, can you explain the difference to me? No, couldn't explain it. So it's been sort of I could probably write a script about my...
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We never really had that request before. You haven't had the request for animal cremains to be buried with that? I absolutely do not believe that. I absolutely do not believe that. I would rather have that than my spouse in there with me. You're telling me you haven't had this conversation? Hello? They hang up. So right now I am going through that, but I'm not doing it for me. Well, I'm sort of, because I'm checking out the neighbors. And I called about that one overseeing Johnny and June.
Yeah.
Already sold.
Of course.
I said, what's the name of those people? I'm going to outbid them. He goes, well, sir, it's not like buying a house. I'm like, yeah, it is. Yeah, we can't really share that information with you. It's been a fun month. I'm making a whole experience out of it. Amy goes, I would almost say you're looking forward to dying. Oh, okay. Maybe I am. So these kinds of decisions, like Sarah just brought up, you're doing that for the benefit of those who are grieving and making this level. I don't think there's any more of a display of love and respect for the people you leave behind if you take care of much of the arrangements as you possibly can. What do you think?
I absolutely agree.
Here's another question. What do you think I should do if I told you I had a month to live? So I'm asking, here you're asking your parents for guidance. We're going to make your parents cry for the holidays, okay? This is the goal. We're going to make them cry because, this is something you want to do. If you're putting it on you as opposed to on them, maybe they'll be more receptive to it. What kind of illness do you have, honey? What are you not telling us? No. I'm just saying, what if I told you, what would you think I should do? Like, how would you arrange an estate? Can you tell me what you think I should do? In other words, go with them as being the child that knows nothing, even though you know things. And ask their guidance, because there's nothing more your dad's going to want to do than give you all the idea of what you need to do. Let them talk. What do you think?
Didn't Queen Latifah do a movie about that?
She did?
Yeah.
Why? Because,
Well, the storyline was she got an improper diagnosis and she thought she had a month to live, so she blew it all and then
What,
found out she
McDonald's?
was going to live.
yeah, I know that McDonald's had to be busy for months.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So Sarah's going, why am I here today?
Sometimes I just don't contribute.
No, you do, because your face says everything.
Priceless.
Right. So that is not a bad question, because you're steering the conversation. Parents might be a little bit less defensive. So there's a strategy to the kinds of questions. This is the whole lesson here. I know, but it's like, get to it already, will you? It's already like 30 minutes. Oh my gosh, how long you been into this? The questions and how you ask them, and this is what this guide is designed to do. You don't have to exactly use the questions I put in there, but what I wanted to do was allow you to come up with a strategy in this guide. And it's on Real Investment Advice. It's a banner that's coming across. It's downloaded for free. It's an enjoyable read. There's some other stuff in here I'm not going through. Sort of my own personal experience with things that you'll read about in the guide. Okay? So these conversation starters, again, can get stuck in your throat, and that's not easy. So I wanted to give you some idea. The framing of the questions, they're not sort of closed end. They're respectful. No dead ends, right? We don't want to be defensive. We don't want to be combative. We want to inquire. And that's the most important thing. These kinds of questions about, oh, here's another one I've used that I have had given to somebody to use. How would you feel about leaving me grandma's diamond necklace? And you can replace diamond necklace with any heirloom you want. And just be quiet. Deliver the question, be quiet, right? Maybe you have a couple of glasses of wine. Just hang out. The goal here is to jolt your parents to think about the will and legacy intent. Because it doesn't have to be, oh, well, we're going to leave that necklace to your sister. Oh, okay, that's great. Does she know? In other words, what are you going to do with this stuff? And what you want is, well, is there any of this stuff that you want? Tell me. And what this kind of question did in one day in my office, there were 5 of us in the office. It spurred well, we should go through this stuff with you and your sister and figure out what you all want. And, we've been looking to downsize anyway. If there's some of that stuff that you want now, or to your point earlier, Sarah, we don't want any of it. Well, then I don't want my kids to dispose of it. Maybe I should be the one who's downsizing it. But at least you're having the conversation about it. And I think that that's really, really important. Who would deliver a eulogy for you? Help me understand, what would you like us to share at your funeral? You want to leave out the affair with the neighbor? We won't talk about that. What is your preference for a cemetery? Like I said, I'm cemetery shopping right now. I'm having a ball. You have to know, and I'm talking to my daughter about this. She doesn't want to really talk about it, but I'm like, I'll have this all arranged for you. I just want to let you know. You'll know where everything is. You don't have to do a thing. I think that is the most important thing I can do. You don't have to worry about a thing. You might have to you might have to get me to Hendersonville because I don't want to be buried here. And then you have to put a rose on June's grave. And it's a whole ceremony you're going to have to go through. That won't have anything to do with me. And I couldn't talk to my parents about this because my parents didn't have a will. And I was the stupid kid. How dare you? What? You want some of my stuff? What? You left me nothing but bills. What are you leaving me? So these kinds of questions, what I notice, or these conversations tend to work well around certain holidays. Doesn't mean it has to be Christmas or anything else, but New Year, you're looking at things differently. You start unpacking boxes, and how many ornaments? This is going to Brent Clanton. No, but I'm not talking about just all your ornaments. But is there like ornaments that you unpack and go, oh my gosh, this has been in the family for 60, 70, 80 years? Do you have that experience?
We do.
And they're just as new, right? Because you only take them out
Once a year.
The beautiful thing about them, the memories that come along with those ornaments,
Oh, yeah.
they're priceless.
Yeah.
They are priceless. Like, I plan to list out all the ornaments. I told my daughter, if you get rid of these, I will come back to haunt you. Because this is what this meant. Your grandfather gave this to me when I was little. There's an ornament I have that you stole at Mervin's when you were little in the crib. I didn't even know you stole it.
Statute of limitations is run out on that.
How long's it been since Mervin's went away?
Exactly. I take her out. I got her in the stroller, and I walk out, and there's a Charlie Brown inside her, and she's got it by, You're already stealing.
Criminal.
And guess what? Today, you don't even get arrested for it. And if you do, you get let out in the next day. So you're all good. But there's a cool story that I have about this stupid ornament. And all the stories I made you out to be bandit number one. She's already stealing. I called the family. Look, she took an ornament. Life is over. You know, I tried to be funny. It really ended tragically. But I still have the ornament. So these are kinds of things, or a few basics, to take you into places to communicate. Now, I will tell you, there's a simple tool that's available to have uncomfortable conversation with loved ones. And it's one of my favorite. I've used it for over a decade. www.agingwithdignity.org. 5 wishes. Have you heard of the 5 wishes?
I have not.
I've got them in my office. It's more than a document. This is per the website. 5 wishes is a complete approach to discussing and documenting your care and comfort choices. It's about connecting families, communicating with healthcare providers, and showing your community what it means to care for another. It lets your families and doctors know in this document who would make difficult healthcare decisions when you can't make them, the kind of medical treatment you want or don't want, how comfortable you want to be, how you want people to treat you, what you want loved ones to know. And in several states, not Texas, unfortunately, but 5 wishes is a legally valid healthcare directive. I think it's like $5. So I order a bunch of them and keep them in my office. I plan when we have our legacy services, this is one of the documents that you will absolutely provide to clients that need that kind of help. So this document alone, and they have a website version, but I think the pen and paper, I think to get the actual little booklet and have your parents add it to the Christmas gifts. There's still time to order these guides. You can type in 5wishes.org in your search, or again, you can go to the website agingwithdignity.org. Questions lead to stories, and stories are always remembered long after you're gone. And that's why conversations about money are your greatest holiday gifts. Before we wrap this up, any other questions that you could think of, Sarah, or any other ways you can approach these legacy conversations? Maybe not just at holiday time, but overall.
Yeah, that was my question, actually.
Yeah, I am avoiding those at holiday time, sir.
Exactly. So that was my question. How many clients do you actually encounter that choose to have these conversations over the holidays? I did run into one. Well, I did run into one just in the last 2 weeks, so it's obviously a thing.
I just think it's because what holidays mean, I think it brings up these memories of family togetherness, people who are not here anymore. I think it just like, I don't know. Don't you think it sort of like softens you up? Even the toughest of people might not be so Scroogey. Well, not Lance, but I'm talking about others.
At the holidays, though, you're renewing those connections with the family that you might not see much during the year. Mm-hmm. And I know with my family, my siblings and I are all close.
Yeah, you all have a close family.
We like to tell stories about aunts and uncles and great grandparents and that kind of
There
thing.
you go.
So it's a natural thing to do.
So sometimes people just feel more at ease.
Yeah.
Because people are more open and amenable, and you can kick that raw nerve. Where's my money? What am I getting? Not like that. But what are you saying? You're saying I'm avoiding that for holiday time. So don't download the holiday guide. So don't listen to Sarah if she says don't download the holiday guide. But go ahead.
Well, you could download the holiday guide and
But
maybe
hold it
use
until the
it
summer.
in January or, you know.
Well, you could say same kind of thing. Feelings, right? New year. I got to get stuff in order. Also, to your point, a good time to have a conversation about that. Hey, Mom, you got your stuff in order? Like, you know, what are you doing? We're gonna do another podcast on, you know, how to get ready for the beginning of the new year. We're gonna do a little bit about that. We're gonna break it up. You'll see. We'll go through Trump accounts. We're gonna do all kinds of stuff. But realinvestmentadvice.com. See the little scrolly thing at eye level. Stop on the guide and download it. Let me know what you think. Let me know if there are questions or experiences you've had with legacy conversations, because I would love to share them. Richard at RIAadvisors.com. Thank you, Sarah. Oh, I like that little music there. That's pretty good.
Merry Christmas, guys.
Yeah. Merry Christmas.